What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's Arza Chats here, coming at you with another video, and this time we're going to be testing the waters a little bit, seeing how far I can push it before I manage to get my channel banned. Because I've been going pretty hot and heavy lately, racking in 115 subscribers in 39 days, which is I'm pretty proud of, if I say so myself. And this new topic, which is of course the AsmonGold situation, has me really peeved. So I'm going to be breaking this down, and we'll see whether or not my channel stays up. I thought I pushed the bar a little bit with my Stimu Liu video, but this one's really going to push it, so we're going to see exactly how far YouTube will let me go before I get silenced. So I have a whole lot to say, and I'm sure I'm going to get very loud, so sorry to my sleeping roommates, but like, subscribe, and let's get into this. First of all, I really need bounding to the comics to add a dark mode, so I'm stopped getting washed out by it. It's too bright. But anyway, from Jorge Arenas, AsmonGold apologizes for declaring that Palestinians are terrible people and come from an inferior culture, says he's been slowly devolving into the most mean-spirited, rude, nasty, callous, psychopathic version of myself. Now, for those of you who do not actually care about this situation or are not familiar with it, I'm going to break down everything that's going on. So sometime last week, AsmonGold was on a stream where he was asked to discuss the politics regarding Israel and Palestine. And he was specifically asked whose team he was on, and he made his stance very clear, in that he was very much more pro-Israel than pro-Palestine. But it didn't really sound like a pro-Israel stance, more as an anti-Palestine stance. In which he said, if you want to consider genocide as a systemic killing of a group of people, Muslims have genocide built into Sharia law. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They are terrible people. It's not even a question. It's crazy that people don't see it that way. And you know what? I have no issue with a single thing he said there. Muslims do have genocide baked into their laws. I'm sorry to bring it up again, but as people know, I am bisexual. I'm not straight. Muslims want me dead. They do. The majority of Muslims don't want me out there being myself and being able to speak my mind and love who I want to love. That's literally a call for genocide. On top of that, I'm an atheist. That's another thing they're going to want to kill me over. In referring to the humanitarian crisis over in the Middle East, he mentions that the Palestinians would be doing the same thing in regard to what Israel has been doing to Palestine with the bombings, the murder, and the onslaught of destruction and killing. He continues on with how much do they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many weapons. But if they did it, they'd be doing the same thing. That's it. That it just takes enough. Which is so crazy to me that so many people are completely and utterly incapable of rationalizing this thought. One thing Zach doesn't mention here is the fact that the Palestinians' favorite slogan, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, that is a call to kill every single Jew who stands in their way. It is an active call for genocide. No two ways about it. I'm not defending Israel in this conflict. I don't think Israel's the good guy, but Palestinians sure as fuck are not either. To say one is better than or worse, the only one I could even remotely say has any kind of actual moral leeway in this is Israel, because of the fact that Israel isn't an inherently homophobic country, with gay marriage even being legal in Israel, unlike in Palestinian areas where Sharia law literally makes it so if you have sex with another man, they will either force you to transition or they will just behead you. Neither country are good guys, but one of them wants to kill a whole lot less. And even if you look at the history of Israel, every single time Israel was involved in a conflict, it wasn't their fault. It was either a preemptive strike against an attack that was already coming, or was them simply defending themselves because the other Arab nations refused to let them be. AsmonGold then continues, these people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for. And this seems to be the number one line that gets most people into a tizzy, being, oh, you can't say a culture's inferior. Why not? They are. Cultures are inferior or superior. A culture that values individual rights and individual freedoms and props people up so that they can each be their own person instead of putting people into monolithic groups is a superior culture. Hands down, no debate about it. A culture that forces women to wear aggressively oppressive garbs that hide their identity, hide their hair, so that men may not be drawn to sin is an inherently inferior culture. This is not being done to hurt Muslims or denigrate them. I have no issue with Muslims as a people or Muslims as a religious group, but what I do have an issue with is a culture that encourages these extremist ideas. The same would be true in a Christian society that propped up the insistence on enforcing the law that Christians and Jewish can't eat shellfish. Those kind of laws. I don't care what kind of oppressive laws they are. I oppose them. I am an atheist, as I said earlier, so I oppose, like Zach, any form of religious extremism. And I'm sorry, the Muslim cultures in the Middle East are all very much pro-religious extremism. They are run by the extremist theocrats, to the point that Muslim immigrants are trying to enforce Sharia law in Europe. That is not something I'm okay with. I think that anyone who wants to enforce Sharia law should be relocated to a country that already has it, and anyone who wants a free out of Sharia law should be given it, because Sharia law is a humanitarian crisis in of itself. And the one that really peeves me are the queers for Palestine. I get called a sexuality traitor a lot, which I don't even know what that means. But how can I be the traitor when I'm the one who's actually standing up for my rights as a bisexual man, who's actually standing on my morals and my values and trying to ensure that I can be someone who is able to have kids in the future, be able to marry someone who I want to marry in the future? How does that make me a traitor when you're actively siding with people who would gladly throw you off of a roof just for who you want to sleep with? And I want to be very clear so YouTube understands. This is not an issue with all Muslims. It is only the extremist Muslims. But most Muslim groups and most Muslim nations encourage only the most extremist sense of the religion. And of course, most of the far lefties had a huge fit over this. They absolutely freaked out over it, and Twitch even hit him with a 14-day ban. And while most people had a massive issue with it purely on the principle of the fact someone being silenced for giving a completely rational, normal, and correct opinion on the matter, the biggest issue was the fact that they're so hypocritical with their enforcement of these political rules. For instance, everyone's favorite streamer who said that streaming is the hardest job in the world because he's never worked a real job since his father's an oil baron, Hassan Piker, went out and has gone on many occasions full-throatedly supported extremist terrorists, and yet he has never been banned from Twitch for any of these things. He literally has terrorists on his streams frequently and never has anything happen to him. And let me be clear, I don't want anything to happen to him, because the only way to critique an idea is to be able to engage with it. If the idea is hidden or censored, you can't argue, you can't debate, and you can't have discussion. I don't want AsmonGold banned, and I don't want Hassan Piker banned. I can't think of a whole lot of people who I actually want banned from being able to use freedom of speech on the market, because if you can't discuss it, you can't critique it. How can you argue against a point that you don't know? And another statement coming from over at Twitter, Chenk Tome, reasonable position no one wants to say out loud, 14 days. Being cartoon woman, 7 days. Having actual sex on camera, 3 days. Promoting literal terrorists and praising the deaths of American citizens, published right to the front page. Twitch, everybody. And that's really it, isn't it? The main problem with all of this isn't what AsmonGold said. It isn't the speech issue. It's all Twitch. Twitch is a platform dominated by people of overly dramatic political standings who enforce their political beliefs everywhere they can. It's a bunch of community managers who are waving around the wand of oppression whenever they can so they can silence any dissenting opinions. Twitch is the problem because they are so aggressively censorship heavy and are so prone to silencing whenever they can. It's absolutely disgusting. And this is what makes YouTube so important, and I really appreciate the fact that YouTube's been moving more towards freedom of speech, and I really hope that someday they actually prioritize people's right to speak so that when it comes to it and Twitch finally pushes it too far, people can come over to YouTube and voice their opinions, because that would just be better for everyone in society. Both Hassan and AsmonGold and people like me or Jeremy from Geeksy Gamers, D-Day Cobra, doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, you should be allowed to say them, because like I said earlier, if they're wrong, we can critique them if we can hear them. Another user, Kirsha, hail Kirsha and her ketchup bottle. I find this amusing, not just because people like Hassan are able to talk to terrorists, but because what he said is what the average normie thinks about the situation, but won't say out loud. I'm kind of surprised he said it even. Whole situation is just fascinating to watch. And she's spot on. This is the normal opinion. This is how most people should be feeling about this and probably are feeling about this. But like she says, so many people are afraid of being yelled at by a bunch of people hosting rainbow flags and Palestine flags who are complete and utterly uneducated in the matter. They don't even know where Palestine is. They don't know what river it's referring to. They don't know what sea it's referring to. All they know is that someone is pretending to be oppressed. They don't know the history, they don't know the origin, they don't know the reason. They don't know that it's all Palestine's fault they're in the situation they're in, and if not directly Palestine, it's the Arab nations who are allied with Palestine who put them in that situation. But these people don't care, because all they care about is virtue signaling and spreading out how good of an activist they are. It doesn't matter what, all that matters is that they're doing something for the revolution. They don't care what the revolution is as long as there is one. Shortly after the comments were made, AsmonGold released several apologies. First, his Twitter one. Looking back on it, I was way too much of an asshole about the Palestine thing. Of course, no one deserves to have their life destroyed, even if they do things or have views I find regressive. Now, I don't know what he's referring to, because he's not destroying anyone's lives. The people in this context, their lives are being destroyed, but his life is very much under attack and could be destroyed just for having an opinion the mob doesn't agree with. You guys deserve more than me saying stupid stuff like that. I'll do better. Do better, Senator. He followed up on YouTube where he says that his statements were trivializing the genocide that's happening there. It's not trivializing, it is putting it in context. It is contextualizing because context matters. It would be like looking at World War II and saying that the Americans are genociding the Nazis because of their opinions when you're completely ignoring the fact that first the Nazis committed a genocide against the Jewish people. That's the exact same situation. It is ignoring the antecedent to affirm the consequent. He keeps on saying that he doesn't necessarily think that it was really racist, but when I'm using language like Palestinians or the people there, rather than what my real language was, I've always been very outspoken and very against religious extremism, and I still am. I think that any religion and any way of thinking that's going to cause you to put people in positions below, like gay people, women, people with disabilities, anything like that, I think that's a really bad position to have, and I really don't like that. And the one thing I can appreciate about this statement is the fact that he's not fully backtracking. When he says he doesn't necessarily think that it was really racist, he's right. It wasn't. He didn't say anything that was racially insensitive or racist. And the only people who are painting it that way are really sensitive people who are over-dramatizing the statement because they cannot rationalize the difference between a racial group and a group of religious extremists. Because guess what? The majority of Palestinians are religious extremists. I'm sure there are some who are not, but I'm pretty sure they're a minority over there, given the sheer prevalence of Sharia law. He then defends himself, saying that the problem that he made was putting in no effort to draw a distinction between the two things, being the religious extremism and the racial group of Palestinians. But the issue here is the fact that this is such a double standard thing to take. When people make statements of the whole group, they don't actually mean the whole group. For instance, white people can't cook, white people like putting too many craisins in coleslaw, gay people dress too nicely, every single member of Geeks and Gamers is a homosexual. Those kind of things, yes, they're overbranching statements, but they're not 100% true. And people who are making these generalizations know that. For instance, I have horrible fashion sense, but that doesn't mean I'm not bisexual. That just means that I am an individual who is on a member of a group. When you use group affiliation, there's always room for individuality in there. So in a culture where the majority of the citizens are, in fact, terroristically inclined and have a tendency to engage in discriminatory behaviors due to being religious extremists in mass, then it's safe to say that those people are, in fact, as a generalization, how AsmonGold described them. And this is where things start getting a bit more concerning, where AsmonGold says, what's so crazy about it is that I think this has been going on for like 2 years. I think that I've been slowly devolving into the most mean-spirited, I don't even know what the word is for it, just like the most mean-spirited, rude, nasty, callous, psychopathic version of myself. Which has me concerned because AsmonGold, the way he feels to me is AsmonGold seems like the average man. He seems like a normal guy who is waking up and bringing a lot of other normal men into our side of the entertainment sphere, where they're starting to see the wokeness for what it is, cultural Marxism that is trying to destroy all kinds of media. And what really concerns me about these kinds of statements is it sounds like that he might be equating these two things, him waking up to the reality of the situation with becoming this monster persona that he seems to think he is now. The best allegory I can come up with is The Matrix. He is Neo right before he wakes up. He is so close to breaking out of the Matrix and breaking out of his programming, but because of the framing around him and this next part that's even more concerning, that his friends and his dad has told him that he's becoming like this, that he's got to chill and he's got to calm down. This just tells me that the people around him want to keep him in the controlled bubble that he's been locked in for so long that he's finally waking up from. And these people would much rather keep him held down into the status quo than allow for him to realize what's actually going on. Basically, these people are Agent Smith trying to keep Neo locked into the Matrix when he's so close to waking up. Which I guess is kind of ironic to use the leftist term woke in a positive, centrist way. He further announced that he'd be stepping away from his positions at both of his companies, the OTK Media Company and custom PC building company Starforge. And he's only saying he's stepping away to save face because he was fired. He was fired from Starforge at the very least. And then he says to focus on his mental health, which means that just means he was fired. To focus on mental health is just code speak for I was fired. But I'm trying to save face and pretend that I wasn't. But I will say I do think AsmonGold needs to step away. He needs to reassess his life, and he probably does need to do some things for his mental well-being because he is living in a terrible situation. He follows up by saying that he needs to get himself in check. I need to get my mind under control. I need to fix my fucking life. Because that is one thing I do know about AsmonGold is he lives like an absolute slob. He doesn't shower. He lives in a dirty ass room. He has had cockroaches crawling all over him. I mean, it's so bad that even I made fun of him in this thumbnail that I had crafted, where I put AsmonGold over the face of the Dragon Age Veilguard person, and then I put a cockroach on his shoulder, just playing on the joke. And when I craft this thumbnail, I'll probably try and find a place to put 1 or 2 cockroaches in it, just for the hell of it. But all that to say, he really does need to reassess his life and get some help. And this is the way to do it. I'm glad it happened then. Because even if it means he has to step back and he has to go back into the Matrix a little bit to reassess himself so he can once again reemerge as a much healthier individual, that's the better thing for everyone. Because someone like him going down and just becoming an absolute degenerate, unhealthy individual is not beneficial to anyone. And that's where he continued, I'm going to try to just take some time off to, really kind of fix my shit, he concluded. So yeah, anyways, guys, that's about it. I'll see you later. Bye. There were some other statements he made and a further apology both on Reddit and on more things he said on YouTube. So I'm going to go over to this article from that Park Place, which provides further clarification for why he apologized for his comments about the war in Palestine, written by John F. Trent. He clarifies more that he's taking a bit of a break because the vibes and the feel of the stream recently has been a lot more tense, and a lot of that is my fault. If you think that means my first stream back is going to be playing Dustborn and promoting Sweet Baby, I think you'll be very disappointed. I'm not changing anything other than trying to be more positive and less mean-spirited. And I really do believe this in part. I don't think he's going to be going and drinking the Kool-Aid just to get back into the things, but I do think that first of all, him apologizing is giving the mob more leeway, and then also this statement that he's going to be less mean-spirited and more positive kind of concerns me over the claims of toxic positivity all around the industry. AsmonGold is kind of a voice for the voiceless right now, the people who don't want to talk out because it's too hard and requires paying attention to have a voice. They just kind of want to sit back and play video games. And so by him being the one to become more positive, does that mean he's going to stop talking about the DEI-infested games? Does this mean he's going to stop engaging in? Or does this mean he's actually going to be giving them more merit than they're due? That's to be seen. And he finished off, hopefully you all can see how this really is a macro issue and not just this situation. My life has actually been fucked for a while now, and I need to fix it. I'm a 34-year-old single man living in his mother's house with dead animals and garbage. Though I don't hate it, I don't want to die this way. Which is a very commendable thing to admit and to say out loud, because that's not the kind of thing that most people are going to say, because it's not an easy thing to say. And I do hope he manages to reassess his life and comes out all the better for it. And I do hope that when he does reassess it, he doesn't do it in such a way that affirms the easy life, being the kind of life that would approve of the DEI stuff, because it's easy to do, because it's everywhere, and you don't get backlash from the masses for supporting DEI. As much as people like to claim, for instance, that Eddie guy over in Dragon Age likes to claim that they get harassed for pushing DEI, they have yet to provide a single piece of evidence of harassment. And when you go looking for it, you don't find any. The last thing I'm going to mention is this article from The Gamer, What Does AsmonGold's Apology Mean for Gaming?, written by Stacey Henley. And this article is mostly just an opinionated version of the summary, not a whole lot to go on to, but it gets a little interesting when Stacey goes into mention some of the DEI-based stuff. There's no denying the Reddit apology was a total tonal reverse from the YouTube apology. It had to be the sort of it had the air of, sorry bros, they banned me for something stupid, but I'll be back, you can't stop me, which again is exactly the tone I expected him to strike. He says he'll be making a DEI equals die video on his first day back. Maybe he will, and maybe he won't. There's no doubt this undercuts his YouTube apology somewhat, but then the question is, why make it at all? And the funny thing is, Stacey doesn't mention why this undercuts his YouTube apology. DEI equals die is 100% true, and I didn't see anywhere that he made the statement he's going to make this, but whatever. If you're claiming, I'm going to assume it's true, just for the sake of this video. But why does that undercut it? Because he's still being honest and critical about things that are real problems in the industry? That is exactly who he needs to be right now. He needs to stick with his feelings, stick with his convictions. He needs to clean up his life around his opinions, because yes, I'm sure his opinions are kind of based in the fact that his life is a mess, but cleaning up his life should only strengthen his conviction, not change and remove his conviction. She then speculates that's not to say it's definitely real. He may have recorded a more mature apology and then been on the phone with his various partners and sponsorships to check that everything was still cool, been told no by too many of them, and decided that being a better person was a bit of a crock. Before the new AsmonGold even arrived, it was time to go back to the old AsmonGold, but progress is not a straight line. So in Stacey's mind, the only way for AsmonGold to become a better person and grow is to become a far-left pro-DEI individual, which is such a disingenuous thing and the only kind of thing I expected from the gamer anyway. And honestly, that is the route I'm expecting AsmonGold to go down. I actually think that's what he's going to do because that is the easy route. But I hope to God that AsmonGold has a bit more conviction to not do that, to stand by his morals and stand by his beliefs and stick with it and follow through and improve his life, but not give up on his beliefs. Now, Stacey does backtrack a little bit later. AsmonGold doesn't necessarily need to change his politics to be a better person. That's because I'm not entirely sure if he has any politics. I know what he doesn't like, which coincidentally seems to be in lockstep with the talking points of the Gamergate movement, hence the immediate reference to a DEI video, but I don't know what he actually likes, what he stands up for. I don't think he does. He doesn't need to come back and say, actually, yes, Hassan is right about everything, and from now on, 50% of my earnings will go to progressive grassroots activism to be a better person. He just needs to not hate everything that he sees. Now, the one thing I find funny here is how she doesn't seem to understand AsmonGold's role and the role of the Gamergate movement, because Gamergate 2 is the everyman movement. This isn't a movement of a couple of chuds. This is the movement of everybody, because if this wasn't the movement of everybody, we wouldn't be validated with every single new movement, every single new event, such as Awakening 9, which was worked on by Kim Belair and is being treated as such, which in the less than 2 days that the game has been out has only amassed a total number of 285 players. So this isn't that he's in lockstep with the Gamergate movement, it's that the everyman is in lockstep with the Gamergate movement, because this is an everyman movement. And to be clear, when I say everyman, I'm using man as the derivative of human, not the gendered term. So you SJWs who are going to get mad at me for not saying every person, you can go kindly fuck off. And these comments on here on the Gamer article are also pretty interesting. Nothing. It means literally nothing. The people who hate him will continue hating him and will hold on to this and bring it up for the next 10 years. His fans will still be his fans, and the people who don't really care either way will continue not caring. And that's pretty much how it goes. Actually, I think what this is going to do is this will probably bring some new people who are on the fence over to his side, because they see that he's willing to admit when he thinks is wrong, but he's also willing to stand by his convictions when he doesn't. But that, of course, depends on what AsmonGold does when he comes back. This next comment from Daily: this publication itches to excise reality, which interestingly isn't mentioned in their Simeon Shingles laden community guidelines. My lukewarm live and let live analysis of this event vanished faster than 8 pounds of crab legs in Cardi B's kitchen counter. I'm not Razor Fist, but Godspeed, and hail Razor Fist. Another comment here, eye roll. Asmon didn't say anything wrong. He told the truth. Some people fear and loathe facts and truth when they don't align with their ideologies or BS worldview. Just like with J.K. Rowling, the truth tellers are hated. And that's really the big problem. A lot of these people and a lot of these overly progressive worldviews are not based in fact. They are based in conjecture and based in politics. And therefore, they don't align with reality. These people are anti-objectionists. They don't believe in the objective reality, especially when the objective reality violates their core beliefs. And therefore, because their beliefs aren't based in any kind of fact whatsoever, facts destroy them in an instant. And that's why these people hate people who tell the truth, because they don't have a defense against the truth, because the truth objectively violates their worldview, and because of how broken their worldview is. But that's basically all there is. I really just hope that AsmonGold is someone who's, when he comes back, I really do hope he reassesses his life. I hope he cleans his room. In one thing, he called cleaning his room a penance, like a fucking Catholic punishment to self-flatulate and pretend he's cleaning up his life. That's not what it is. It's not penance. It's just a job. It's what you're supposed to do. As an adult, you're not supposed to live in a mess. And the fact that you're living with your mom and making your mom's house that disgusting is one of the few things about AsmonGold I really despise. He's a dirty person who needs to live a much healthier life, and that's something that all people need to do. I know very many people who have a tendency to live in a messier household. I personally don't like it. I keep my dorm room very clean as much as I can, But I mean, we're also all human, and mess is something we're going to accumulate. But the point is, you can't let the mess destroy your life like AsmonGold has. So I'm glad that this is something that's going to allow for him to realize that he needs to live better and he needs to clean up after himself and keep himself in a healthy situation. But I'm worried that because of the way he's being punished by his friends, the way people around him seem to be talking, I'm really worried that he's going to question his own morality and question his own correctness. And instead of formulating his own beliefs like he had been, he's going to kowtow to their mobbish mentality and immediately go into their beliefs. I used to be a far left person. I know what it's like when you defect. The people there, they don't engage with anything you say based on merit. They only engage with it based on the idea that you are inherently evil because you are betraying yours and their thoughts. So let me know down in the comments what you think about this. Do you think AsmonGold actually means any of the apology he said? Do you think he's going to clean his room? Or do you think he's going to go and he's going to become a wokey himself and full Hassan Pike here on us? But that's pretty much all I got. So I will see you guys on the next one.